welcome to the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football League videocast. I am your host Dan, and today, like every day, we are brought to you by our friends at Sacco Cream. Sacco Cream. When you've got an itch you need to scratch, well, irritation has met its match. Sacco Cream. And in this week's videocast, we are going to recap everything from Week 10, preview Week 11, and dive right into the playoff hunt. So let's go right into it. Let's recap Week 10 and see how that impacted the playoff race as it is right now. First off, it was a battle between 4 and 5 teams, between Carl and Steve, the Sacco squad of Gonzo against the Broodmare Sire. And this one really played up to its billet. Steve got the win 96-85, come away with a close one, behind 20 points from Kelvin Johnson and 19 from his kicker, Steven Hauschka from Seattle. Not many times you get almost 20 from a kicker, but we'll take it. And double digits from just about everyone on his team, despite a 0 from Vernon Davis. Left the game with a concussion, hope he's okay. But also some good performers on Carl's team was 15 from Andre Johnson, another 15 from Sean McCoy. 17 from the Raiders. Defense is showing up in this matchup, but it wasn't enough. You got 2 from Larry Fitzgerald and from Tony Gonzalez equally. You never want a stud like those two putting up 2 points, and it definitely cost you. Carl lost by 9, and he falls 1 game behind in the playoff hunt. In another playoff matchup, we had Drew facing off against Holly, and this one was important because if Holly beat Drew this week, it pretty much sealed up a playoff spot for her, but it didn't happen. Drew came with the upset, 5th win in a row, 99-89. He is victorious over Holly behind a huge game from AJ Green and Russell Wilson, 21 points equally up front, and also 10 from Sean Moreno and 11 from Ryan Matthews, 8 from Eddie Lacy. Not much from the bottom half of the scoreboard for Drew, but it didn't matter. Despite 27 points from Peyton Manning and 19 from AP all day, it wasn't enough to overcome Drew's hot start. 0 points from the Colts defense, that hurts, and 2 from Wes Welker. Not enough firepower on Holly, relying too much on the Broncos. Somebody was left out. It happened to be Wes Welker, and it cost her this week. She's still leading in the 3rd playoff spot race, but we'll see what next week holds for both these two teams. Kyle was facing off against Sacco leader Simon, and this one was an upset. Simon came to play today and beat Kyle by the tune of 91-79. Pierre Thomas came out of nowhere, scoring 22 points for Simon, as well as 16 from Golden Tate and 15 from Julius Thomas. Not much other. He got 0 from Indianapolis's kicker, Adam Vinatieri, and 4 from Des Bryant. Gotta throw him the damn ball. Sounds a lot like Deion Sanders, but it didn't matter. He blew Kyle out of the water from 7 points from the quarterback fill-in, Terrell Pryor, 0 points from Lamar Miller, and 2 from Jason Witten. He did have a huge game from Demaryius Thomas, but that was the only person who really came to play this week, and it showed on the scoreboard. Simon gets his 2nd win of the year, and Kyle is falling even more behind in the playoff race. And in the week after his interview, Jake was facing off against division leader Kavi, and it definitely showed. Kavi with the victory, 99-76 over Jake. His studs came to play for Kavi. 25 points from Brandon Marshall, 18 from Matthew Stafford, 12 from waiver wire pickup Zach Stacy, 10 from Frank Gore, and 12 from nice tight end Jordan Reed. Not much other than that, but it didn't matter. The only performer was really Riley Cooper for Jake. Other than that, not a lot of action. And a week after he said he was feeling good about his chances, they take a big hit as he takes the loss, and Kavi inches closer to guaranteeing his spot in the playoffs. And finally, in a week where I could shore up my playoff spot, I played the person trailing me in the standings, Andrew Benda, and I predicted I was going to lose this one, and I was correct. Andrew Benda with a 14-point win, 94-80 over myself, behind a huge game from Drew Brees and Marshawn Lynch. Another 17 from Pierre Garçon on a Thursday night. Not a lot of action other than that. Danny Woodhead gets in the end zone, and that was the difference, as my team did not really perform well outside of the Giants D, and I just want to take a moment here. Even though I did get the loss, this week proves that I am the ultimate spot starter fantasy waiver wire pickup extraordinaire. There has been 4 times where I've needed a spot start from any player off waivers just to make my team kind of relevant, and all 4 have came through. In week 4, when Cam Newton was on a bye, I picked up Alex Smith to the tune of 22 fantasy points and the win. A couple weeks ago, all 3 of my running backs were on bye, so who did I pick up? Mike Tolbert and Brandon Bolden. Now, each scored a touchdown and got in double digits, helped me with the win on that one. And this week, although I didn't get the win, the Giants defense, who I picked up off waivers, scored 18 fantasy points, was the top scorer on my team. It makes me think sometimes I should make all of my starters off waivers, but alas, that would be stupid, and I won't do that. Andrew with the win stays in the playoff race, and I am still looking to shore up my playoff spot. With that recap ends our Week 10 replay, and that leaves us with quite a mess in the Fantasy Football League playoff standings. On the screen are the actual standings, minus Kavi and myself and Simon. Simon's out of the playoffs. Kavi and myself have pretty much assured our spot as league leaders. So everyone else is on the screen now. And this is the scenario that we have. I am the first team to secure my spot into the playoffs. I am 3 games ahead of the person trailing me in the division, and I am over 100 points ahead of Benda. So that means I would have to lose all 3 of my remaining games, and Benda would have to outscore me by over 33 points each week. That is highly unlikely, so I am counting myself in the playoffs. Kavi can clinch his cheeks with a win this week, officially, and he is over Holly by 50 points. So with a win, he can pretty much secure it. If not, it's still in the balance. Everyone pretty much thinks Kavi's going to make the playoffs anyway. But other than that, Holly and Steve hold the top spots, as you can see. Benda and Drew are tied with Steve 5-5, hence the dash. Carl Jake are 1 game behind the playoff race, and Kyle is 2. Now, Steve has the points lead, as you can see, for everyone who isn't Holly. That means that wins and losses will probably decide this one. If everyone were to win out, obviously Steve would make the playoffs based off of the tiebreak of points, but obviously not everyone's going to win out. I predicted that Drew and Carl were going to win the playoff spots. Obviously, it's going to have to take a lot for that to come true with Carl. I'm feeling pretty strong in my prediction about Drew, but this is how we stack up. 3 games to go, and this leads us, before we go into the predictions for Week 11, we first have a champion on the Sacco Moisturizing Hotline. And joining us now on the Sacco Moisturizing Hotline, the hottest team in the league currently, Drewbies, Pretzel Boys, and Drew Blake. Drew, first off, I want to thank you. You make me look like a genius because, as everyone knows, in the beginning of the year, I predicted that you would make your strong playoff push, as you do every year, but I thought that you would make it this year. How emotionally taxing is a run like this to your team, especially that you do it every year?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you again for having me, and thanks wonderful guys at Sacco Cream for taking time to have me here. I think now this is the 3rd year in a row where I've started with 4 losses or more. So I guess I'm just kind of used to it now. Before, it was really emotionally taxing, and I'd get kind of down when I'd lose. But now I know that I'm a late season team, and that's when I'm going to make my run, and I'm going to make the playoffs. It's going to be in those last weeks, and it's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, you definitely shown that's what you like to do. You like to make it interesting. And as you stated, you started off 0-5, bottom of the barrel, Sacco Award candidate. Now you've reeled off 5 straight. You're 5-5. What in your opinion, what caused that 0-5 start, and what turned it around for you?
I think that the 0-5 start might be a gypsy curse. I think my dad probably cheated in fantasy football one year, or did some kind of definitely for fantasy football. I think if I keep playing well, I can overcome it and hopefully make a good run at the playoffs here.
Is there anything you think you could do to wipe that curse away from the Blake family name?
Ooh, not that I'd like to talk about in public.
Fair enough, fair enough. This is a family show. Despite what Holly might say on the message boards. But what do you think turned your season around? What started that 5-game winning streak that you're on right now?
I think what really started the streak was a combination of things. I got a lot better at running back. I made the trade with you and picked up Noshawn Marino, who's been great. Eddie Lacy, after he got healthy from the concussion, has been a beast. AJ Green has been solid all year. I've had some good quarterback play. I've gotten pretty lucky with defenses. The Cardinals' defense has definitely been a sleeper.
I see. Yeah, it seems everything is coming together for you at the right time. Wiping the slate clean right now. Everyone's records are taken away. We start the season over, but there's still only 3 games. Do you think you're in the top 4?
I think that the top 4 is probably your team, Cobby's team, Holly's team, and Andrew Benda's team. I think that if I get some good play out of Roddy White, if he gets healthy and comes back to what I expected him to be when I drafted him, I might have a shot at being one of those top 4 teams. Those are how I see the strongest 4 right now.
I see. So, just to lay it out for everyone, the current situation is yourself, Steve, and Benda are at 5-5. Holly is at 6-4. You are a considerable amount of points behind Holly and Steve. You're right about even with Benda, but you are a little bit behind him. So out of those 4 teams, you're currently in 4th place. So for you to make the playoffs, realistically, you kind of need 2 losses for any of those teams, preferably 2 of them, so you could get into the playoffs. Do you like your chances knowing that has to happen?
I think what is more important is I need to keep winning. If I don't keep winning, I might end up tied with somebody like you said, and I'll probably lose just because of the low point production I had early. So I think that I definitely need to beat Covey this week. And if that doesn't happen, my chances of making the playoffs are probably pretty slim.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you do play Covey this week. Any other thoughts on the matchup between you two, besides it's a must-win?
Jamal Charles is looking mean, and I don't think anybody saw him as the number 1 running back this year, so that was a great pickup for Covey.
Yeah, Covey, don't even pretend to know what you were doing there. You wanted Doug Martin all day, all night, in your bed, in your mouth. We know it. You cannot take credit for that.
As mad as he was when it happened, that's probably made his season, is that pickup of Jamal Charles, who he would not have if he had been able to draft Doug Martin.
That is very true. In your last 2 games after your Week 11 matchup with Covey, you play sliding down a slippery slope in the team of Kyle and finisher, and also contending for the playoffs. The very last week, you play Carl. Your thoughts on these final 2 games?
I think that Kyle's team hasn't been performing as strong as it did in the first couple games of the season. I like my chances there if I get to put up 100 points or around there that week. The toughest matchup is probably going to be that last one against Carl. Just seeing, if if teams are going to rest players, stuff like that, in preparation for the playoffs. Well, that's probably a little early, but kind of take the workload off of maybe those workhorse backs or something like that.
I see. Well, definitely your work is cut out for you. I myself am pulling for you. Obviously, I have no friends and no favorites in the league, but I do hope for my own predictions to come true. A selfish nature that is. But again, we appreciate you coming on, Drew, and good luck this week against Kavi.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks again for having me.
And we'd like to thank Drew for joining us on the Sacco Moisturizing Hotline once again. And before we dive into the Week 11 predictions, one last reminder that our league trade deadline is this coming Wednesday. We have only a few more days to finalize our trades. Make sure we get them in. If someone texts you, Facebooks you, tries to message you in any way about a trade, please try and respond to them as soon as you can. Try and be courteous to other league members. Respond to people. League deadline Wednesday for the trades. Remember that last chance to finalize your rosters besides waivers. Let's get those trades in. And now, without further ado, our Week 11 previews. And to start out, after his Sacco Cream Moisturizing Hotline call, we have Andrew Blake facing off against league leader Kavi. Now, for Drew's team, what don't you like? You got Russell Wilson playing on Sunday against Minnesota. Eddie Lacy playing against the Giants defense. Noshawn Moreno is a tough game against Kansas City. And A.J. Green playing against Cleveland. I expect all these players to have big games. The players I don't expect to play well are Blair Walsh, his kicker, and Roddy White against Tampa Bay. Coming back, he was hurt previously with a hamstring injury. Now he has a shoulder injury. I don't think he's going to play very well, and he's also going to be on Revis Island. Don't look for a lot from these two players, but I think the rest of his team performs pretty well. On the opposite side, Kavi's going to have a good game from Matthew Stafford. I think they might be down, and I think they're going to be throwing a lot. Pittsburgh has a good defense on the ground, and I think they won't get much on the running game. Jamal Charles, I think, is shut down against Denver. I don't think the Texans perform pretty well either against Oakland. Yes, they might get pressure on the quarterback, but I think other than that, they won't do much the rest of the week. Victor Cruz has not scored a touchdown since week 1 all season, and I don't think he does it against Green Bay this week either. Look for a bad game from Cruz, and I think Giovanni Bernard gets shut down by Cleveland as well. And because of this, I think Drew will show Kavi and his futuristic new speed that all technology is not a good thing by giving him a new meaning to the word flexin', and I don't mean by his muscles, I mean by his groin. Next up is Andrew Benda against Sacco favorite Simon. And in this one, I don't know how you can't like Drew Brees and Marshawn Lynch for Andrew Benda. Drew Brees playing at home. If he's playing at home, he's going to have a great game. Everybody knows that. Despite against the San Francisco defense, it doesn't matter. Drew Brees has a big game. Marshawn Lynch against Minnesota. Minnesota doesn't have much of a defense. I expect him to go bonkers as well. And finally, Pierre Garçon's going to have a good game against a questionable secondary from Philadelphia. I don't see much other than that. I think Stephen Ridley gets shut down, and I think Vincent Jackson gets shut down as well. Despite all of this, I think Benda's still going to win. I don't think Alex Smith has much going for him against Denver. I think Pierre Thomas is not going to be a lucky the second time kind of guy against San Francisco. Good defense there. And Rashad Jennings against Houston. I think his luck is run out too. He had a good game last week, and I don't think it continues. Anquan Bolden as well hasn't done anything all year except for week 1, and it's not going to change this week. I think Benda's going to rape Simon and his Pez Bryants just like the camp counselors do at Camp Whoop-Ass. We've got the two teams trailing the playoff race matching up this week in Jake and Kyle. And for Jake's team, I don't see much going on here. I think Andre Ellington's going to have a good game. But other than that, I think Jericho Cotchery is a questionable play against Detroit. And I think Riley Cooper is run out of the magic. And I think against Washington, he doesn't get into the end zone. Other than that, Nick Foles, I think, comes back down to earth as well. And Jared Boykin gets shut down by the Giants defense. On the other side, 20 points on Thursday night from CJ2K, Chris Johnson, and 4 from T.Y. Hilton. And because of this strong start, I think Jake stays true to his red name and gets diddled by Kyle so hard that the carpet matches the drapes and the dry cleaning's going to need some more starch. And in a matchup where I can assure my playoff spot by clinching the division, I faced off against 5-5 Steve, who's leading the playoff race in 4th place. And this week, I don't see it happening for Steve. Not a good game for Case Keenum against Oakland. Last week, he should have had a couple picks that fell fortunately for him, and I don't think this week it happens that way. I think single digits from Case Keenum and also from Reggie Bush against Pittsburgh, who has a good defense, and I think they shut him out on the ground. Calvin Johnson obviously is going to have a good game. He does every week. But Hakeem Nicks, I don't see it happening for him. And Steven Hauschka is Steven Hauschka. That's a fact. For my team, Cam Newton, I think he's going to overperform in New England. I also think Jordy Nelson is going to overperform. Alshon Jeffrey in my slot right now. I think he scores a touchdown this week. And the Lions D, my spot start for the week, I think they score double digits. I think I get this one and assuring my spot in the playoffs. And finally, we have playoff race leading Holly against the Goon Squad from Carl. And this week, Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos and basically Holly's team plays against Kansas City. And because of this and her reliance on one team, I think she's going to falter. Le'Veon Bell against Detroit's going to score single digits. Adrian Peterson and Torrey Smith are the only people I see really having good games this week. Peyton Manning is hurt. All they have to do is hit his ankle one time and he's down for the count. I think it's actually going to happen from Kansas City's great pass defense, and this is going to cost her team. But on the other side, I think Phillip Rivers has a good game Sunday, and I think Alfred Morris and LaShawn McCoy, the core of Carl's team, I think comes through for him along with Andre Johnson. Look for Larry Fitzgerald to have another terrible game, but it's not going to matter. He's going to come out with the win, and in the playoffs, making it even more interesting than it already is. And that wraps up the video cast here for Week 11. I want to thank everybody for watching as always. And remember that this video cast is brought to us by our friends at Sacco Cream. Got an itch you need to scratch? Well, irritation has met its match with Sacco Cream. Again, reminder, our trade deadline is this week on Wednesday. We only have a couple more days to get those trades in. Other than that, have a good luck in Week 11. Hopefully your playoff chances improve on Sunday, and we'll see you again next week.